Hi, I'm MJ from Linus Publications, and good evening. And we're going to do a session on Tulsi Gabbard. It's someone that I've been meaning to do since she became part of the administration. And I did one years ago, back when she had actually gone to Syria to talk to the leader there. Um, and her takeaway was that maybe he could be trusted to some point. And I found that fascinating. And I actually went and I did a chart of the leader at that time. And I do have to say that she had some valid points in that leaders that are tyrants like that, dictators, they can actually think that they're doing good for their people, or they can think that they're reigning sort of through fear and terror. He actually thought he was doing good for his people. So there was a discrepancy there. Of course, he was torturing people, and that's not really good, but it wasn't like he was doing it intentionally. Maybe there were directions that he gave that, he didn't realize what the outcome was, or maybe he did, but it didn't register. But I found some things in his chat where, like I said, he did care about his people. It just maybe he didn't have a good way of showing it. I also did a chart of Tulsi at the same time because I started to find her somewhat interesting, and I think you would too. So let's just do a quick look at her natal chart. And what we have in her natal chart, if we've got Jupiter and Saturn literally together. So what does that mean? Well, it's in Libra, so that's something to also consider. It means that she's a pretty fair person. It means that she's diplomatic. She's disciplined. She's responsible. She's idealistic and also pragmatic. Now, that is actually opposing Mercury in her chart, natal Mercury. So that's saying she doesn't usually come off well when she's in a conflict situation. So she may say things that don't adequately reflect who she is, or vice versa. She may say too much that reflect some parts of what she is, but not all of it. So this Jupiter Saturn is very interesting. So this is a person that could go far. We also have, and this is not the only interesting thing about her chart, we've got Venus, Sun, and Mars all conjunct in Aries. Aries is a strong sign. Having these three in Aries, someone that stands their ground, someone that is not fearful, someone that is going to be out front. And it's not amazing with something like this that she would end up in the military. And she could probably do quite well there. So with this, I would think that she's definitely got some very strong points. Now, as a note, this three-planet conjunction is actually opposed by Pluto in her chart. So that means her life will be full of conflicts, full of them, people trying to manipulate her, and also vice versa. So she's a strong person and strong woman. So typically that means other people, especially men, may try to dominate her. To bring something else into this, people around her age actually have some angles in their charts, some planetary positions that are not going to get along well with Trump. She has two of them. She's got Uranus literally at 29 Scorpio, and that's an inconjunct to both his Mars and his ascendant. So what does that mean? Well, she's the unexpected. When he wants to go out and act, or when he wants to sort of radiate his brilliance. So she's going to be, well, that facts don't show that type of thing. So that's important. And she's not the only one that has angles like this to Trump. We also have Neptune here. Now, Neptune, in this case, is actually, let me see. Here it is. Yeah. We're at Sagittarius here. What that is, it is going to be in conjunct to Trump's Saturn and Venus. His Saturn and Venus is in Cancer. This is in conjunct that position. What does that mean? Well, she is definitely not what he would want a woman to be. He wants them submissive. So there's a certain placement that he has of women, and she is not going to be fitting that. So there probably is some tension in the administration. And the problem is that she can do a good job, or at least that's what it's looking like. And Trump is not going to like that because she's not going to be agreeing with what he is putting out there. But she's not the only one. As I mentioned, others in the administration also have, at this generational point, things that are contrary to him. So let's now look at what's happening in her chart with the transits, and we're going to look at the progressions and the solar arc. And we're just sort of doing this period or plus or minus a little bit. I don't actually have dates. I didn't want to get too far into this because while she is a player, she's sort of a minor player at this point, but she's got a lot of potential. First, we have Saturn and Neptune opposing her Jupiter and Saturn. So this really powerful configuration here is now being opposed. So what is that indicating? Well, it's going to be, because of Neptune, a testing of her beliefs. Because of Saturn, a testing of her ambitions, whether she can get to where she wants to be. This is also because of the Saturn opposing Saturn. She's caught between a wall and a cloud, literally. So she's not in a great place right now. Now, she also has her ideals, which may be causing a problem at this point. She may be thinking that what she had beliefs in no longer served the purpose. So she's looking for direction. And this is not unusual when you come to a point where you have Saturn opposing Saturn and Neptune opposing Jupiter. So you're looking to see, am I wrong in what I'm thinking? Should I be going in a different direction? So she's uncertain, she's frustrated, and she's probably looking for a course correction. So that could be a point here. Not so much that she's leaving the administration, but maybe changing the way she's going to deal with it. Now, that's an important point. We also have Uranus opposing her Uranus. And this is a generational type thing, but what it means is that freedom becomes even more important. So when someone tries to restrain her, she's going to have a double thing coming back to try and push herself free. So it's almost like, the blow coming towards you becomes double the blow going back. So she wants freedom, and this is pushing her even to more freedom. Now, what's really important in this chart? Pluto. Pluto, in many of the charts we've been looking at, is making tough angles. In this case, it's making a great angle. It's a trine. It's a trine to her Jupiter and her Saturn. What does this mean? She's setting up foundations for where she wants to be, for her vision. So she's going to be steady. She's going to be disciplined here. She's going to be working for the long term. Now, she's going to have endurance. Pluto is going to just give her just incredible stamina just to keep on going and to be very strategic. So this is, in the Trump administration, is maybe a stepping stone. Maybe it's sort of a path she didn't even expect to take, but she decided to take it. This is also giving her vision, because it's hitting Jupiter. So it's a vision of opportunities. It's giving her optimism and with a purpose of where to go. So she does, as noted here, she does have some questions, but Pluto's going to come around and be able to just sort of say, okay, no, this is where we want to go. Let's build that foundation and let's move forward. What is this going to give her? Authority and clarity. She always has come across as very strong, as very unruffled, as very in command and not rushed. And this is going to help with that. It's going to help to even further define her purpose. So I wouldn't be surprised when she does more meetings with Congress that she starts coming off better. So let's take a look at the next one. So we covered what we wanted to cover here. Let's go to the progression. Now, in this case, what we have is we've got the Sun squaring Saturn. Not so great. But what happens is this is who she is struggling against the restrictions. It's a square, so we get restrictions. So it's not a focus, it's restrictions. She's struggling against the restrictions that are being put up against her. And this is pretty much, it's sort of happened in the last few months. So this is, in effect, coming about from being in the administration. Specifically that she's not her own person. So she has a need to re-examine who she is and where she wants to go. Now, this is also going to give a lot of external pressures, which she's definitely getting. Remember, in March, she actually had intelligence and she told Congress that Iran has not moved forward their nuclear capabilities since 2023. It's exactly where it was. So she's very aware of the intelligence. She was in the military. She understands this. So she's aware. But she's going to have the pressure to not provide the truth. This is also authority clashes. Whenever Sun comes up against Saturn, it's you're fighting. And she's not going to come off well if she's fighting with Trump. Again, Trump has a thing about women. They need to be subservient, whatever. They're dumb. They're window candy. They're candy. So what else does she have here? Well, she's got Mercury. She's right over here. And it's in conjunct to Uranus. Okay. What does that mean? Mercury, communication. Uranus, change. Changing what she's saying, in effect. So this is typical because of that communication she gave in March where she said that Iran hadn't moved forward their nuclear program. She had to restate that, saying that she didn't necessarily say it was not true. She just stated that they're closer now. So, you could take what she said in different ways. And she had to do that. She had to come back because people had pulled that up and she had to come back and take back her words. And that's what that break is. So this is something that, in the future could be harmful for her because she actually came back and said, no, that didn't happen. Okay. Now, what we have is Mars making in conjunct to Pluto. Remember, Mars, Pluto, what is this? Manipulation, power struggles, internal and external. So she's definitely in the heat of the power struggles. It's an in conjunct, and this is 23. This has already happened. In effect, she's been in power struggles probably since she's gotten in there, and she may not have won them because Um, well, it's not quite sure. It doesn't seem like she's been in the meetings with Trump, or Trump has not been asking for her intelligence. So she may have lost the power struggle, but with all that other stuff we talked about, with that Pluto trine the Jupiter and Saturn, she's not out of the game yet. So we talked about this. So now let's move on to the solar arc and see what we're doing here. And as I noted, I'm going to try and start doing a little bit more with the notes, not a lot, because they can be just, difficult to actually classify. Because again, it has to do with karma. In this case, her Neptune is coming to hit, and has already hit, her South Node. South Node is where you give out. Neptune, that means her idealism, her view of the world. And she likely had a thin line between illusion and truth. And this likely pushed it away from the truth. So North and South nodes are karmic points, meaning that there's a way we should be going, but we go the other way. So what did she go with? The illusion. She went with what Trump said rather than doubling down on what the intelligence was. Significant. Now, what's the other piece here? We have Mars, and it is trining Jupiter. Now, in 2 years, it's going to trine Saturn. So, but this Mars trining Jupiter right about now is very significant. So that means that right now she's having a lot of growth. So it could be we're not seeing everything that's going on. It could be that she's having many discussions with many companies. So it could be she's setting herself up for the next 20 years in corporate life. Or it could be she's setting herself up in, as a politician. It could be. And from looking at this, I looked at it and I said, you know what? I need to include her in my list for political candidates for the presidency in 2028. She's got this Mars hitting Jupiter opportunities, and she's making them. Mars is touching on Jupiter, so she's making those opportunities. She's going to be very confident. She's going to be really out there. She's going to be productive. And hopefully, since this is hitting Jupiter, she's going to be very ethical. There's going to be growth that she has focused on, so she knows where she's going. So as a roundup on this, I don't know what people would expect, but in all, she's definitely we're all complex people, but she's got some complexity here that leads me to believe that she's not done probably with having a higher position in life. And it could be she runs for the president. Again, some of this coming about in 2 years or so is saying that this is not literally where it's stopping here. She's also a person that she stands her ground. She's not ruffled very easily. And she seems to have a hold of the facts. That's something, I'm probably going to look at it in more detail in her charts. Because like I said, I was sort of impressed years ago when she picked up on stuff with the Syrian leader. And that made me sort of go and check out the Syrian leader. And I thought, well, yeah, maybe she's on track here. So maybe she's on track for other things, or maybe not. Okay. But she's definitely a lot more than I think people expect. She's got a lot of power there. Now, just because you have a great natal chart doesn't mean it comes to fruition. Think of a natal chart as just the opportunities. You need the planets touching on them in certain ways to actually bring it to life. Okay, so it's your map. Okay, you need to sort of get it moving. I hope you enjoyed this session and have a great evening. Bye now.